Good evening, folks. So uh, tonight's little video adventure, we're going to take a look at some of the hits on Caitlin Clark that have been coming that are, really just poorly handled by the referees, if they handled it at all. Okay. And before we go into this and take a look at some of these videos, I understand the physicality of basketball. Okay. But ultimately, what you're supposed to be doing is going for the ball, not for the person. Okay, you're not trying to rip somebody's head off or, slam them to the ground. You're going for the ball. And I certainly understand that sometimes when you're going for the ball, you commit a foul. Okay. And I also understand that sometimes when you're going for the ball and you commit a foul, it's a hard foul. That's the reality of playing either in the NBA or the WNBA, no matter how you look at it. But what has been going on with Caitlin Clark for the past year and a half is not in any way just hard fouls with people going for the ball. I'm not saying it never happens. It has, and they've blown the whistle, and I get that. What we seem to have a problem with in the WNBA is the referees even calling flagrant fouls for exactly what they are. Okay? And they seem to have a problem with ejecting players until the game is completely out of control. And the job of the referee is to make sure the game doesn't get completely out of control. Now, when I look at the night that Sophie Cunningham took down J.C. Sheldon, I'm going to say that that play would never have had to happen had the referees not already lost control of the game. Okay? The way Caitlin Clark has been targeted in this league is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. And it goes beyond just the referees, okay? It goes beyond that because you have to wonder what kind of player you are if you think that that kind of play is something you should be doing to stop somebody from playing their game. You have to wonder what kind of coach you are when you allow your players to do that kind of stuff. Because that's just, in my mind, poor sportsmanship. So we've had Caitlin Clark injured for most of this season, to be honest with you. And no one's going to tell me that the cumulative effect of all of these hits hasn't taken its toll on her body. All right. I remember when Michael Jordan came into the league, he spent a lot of his second year on the injured list. He missed a lot of games. Okay. And he missed a lot of games because he was targeted by the players because they knew no other way to stop him. But the difference between the way the games get out of hand with the WNBA versus what happened with Michael Jordan in the NBA is vastly different. Michael Jordan was never picked up from under his own basket. Never. I never saw that kind of full court press. Okay? I never did. So let's look at some of this extracurricular hitting here that has gone on with Caitlin Clark. And bear with me because, I do a lot of this when I make my political videos, but not with videos, to be honest with you. So here's where we're going to start.
Avery doubled off to Carter. Her jumper is good. Kennedy Carter now with 12 points off the bench.
There you go. So there's one right there. The play wasn't even in. Okay. Caitlin Clark was nowhere near a ball. She was not in a play. Kennedy Carter comes up and slams her to the ground. In my opinion, Kennedy Carter should have been called right there for a flagrant 2 and thrown out of the game. Absolutely. Unquestionably. And unacceptable. All right. see what else we got here.
To use that ball screen to create a shot for herself.
Well, with the step back, it gets fouled. 3 free throws coming as Onion Wede drilled her to the court.
Now, in this game, she was called for a flagrant 1 right there on the spot. And Caitlin Clark got 4 shots, not 3, okay? She was shooting a 3. She got knocked to the ground. That would have been, if it had been a normal foul, she would have gotten 3 shots. They called it a flagrant 1, and it was upgraded to a 4th shot. All right? Here's another one.
Wow. 3 Sky players coming over. Now, the official is pointing to his head here. And I think they're going to look at this to review it. The foul, I believe,
What's this?
Angel Reese. Yep, across the head, and they will go to the monitor.
Now, you could argue that Angel Reese was going for the ball on that one. That was arguable. But Angel Reese did get a flagrant foul on that call, okay? Because of the hit to the head, largely.
He's caught. The 21 points gets tripped up.
Now,
I want to welcome in our Ion audience.
she did not get tripped up. She got slammed to the floor there, okay? I mean, this stuff is just crazy, okay? And we're coming up now to the queen of, I consider JC Sheldon a total hack. I don't even know if I could call her a basketball player. And this is probably the game where things completely got out of hand. This game right here that we're going to look at right now.
I mean, is that displacement? I think it is. Oh, Marina Mabry's going to get ejected. If the officials saw that, Marina Mabry is going to get ejected. So they're going to go and look at it.
They're going to go and look at it. They were standing right there. Standing right there.
She's got a strong scratch on one side of her face, a scratch on the other side. It's not for the game today. I asked her. She's always in the mix. There's a lot of contact here.
Look at that.
There's a scrape across the face. That's what Clark didn't like. The Mabry came in with a bump. Mabry's day is almost assuredly going to be done.
Mabry's day wasn't done until after the Sophie Cunningham incident, quite frankly. This game got completely out of control. Mabry should have been thrown out. That game right there, a stop should have been put to this with the eye poke. And that should have been it. Okay, but instead, JC Sheldon not only poked her eye, but then chest bumped her. And then Mabry comes in and knocks her to the ground. This isn't hard fouling. This isn't physicality. This is assault, as far as I'm concerned. Okay? This is pure bullshit. And then we have the last one we're going to look at tonight. And I'm in the process of looking for some more. Is just from Tuesday night's game that I went to at the TD Garden here in Boston, where they were playing again JC Sheldon and the Connecticut Sun in Boston, because of course they didn't have enough space in their arena to fit all of the people who wanted to see Caitlin Clark. Let me tell you, that's what this was, because the lines outside of the TD Garden, I've never seen anything like it in my life, and I promise you, they weren't there to see the Connecticut Sun. So here we go. This is a smaller screen. I apologize, but this is the only one I could find available right now. You got to watch this closely now.
That's why she's saying call a foul, Rav. Makes me sick.
Watch.
Spin move, watch this. Caitlin Clark gets kneed in the
It
stomach
was
by
JC Shelton's
Sheldon.
leg right there
Doesn't
in
get
her stomach.
foul called. That's why she's saying call a foul, Rev.
Look at it again.
Spin move, watch this. Caitlin Clark gets kneed in the stomach
Right
by
here.
Sheldon. Doesn't get the foul called. That's why she's saying call a foul, Rev.
No call. No call. Okay. Now, let's talk about this because this part of my conversation is important. We have a player in the WNBA that everybody wants to see play. They want to see Caitlin Clark play basketball because she is that good, okay? They are not there because they want to see Caitlin Clark knocked to the ground, elbowed in the stomach. I mean, Caitlin Clark was making a spin move. JC Shelton, again, knew the only way to stop her was to knee her in the stomach. Because apparently trying to stop somebody cleanly isn't enough anymore. It's winning at all costs. It's stopping Caitlin Clark at all costs, even if that means hurting her. And again, I'm going to say this. You need to ask yourself, what kind of character of player do you have that will indulge in that? And what kind of character do you have as a coach when you allow that, when you don't pull your player aside and tell them we don't do that? I mean, there's no personal responsibility here. It's like a free-for-all. If I wanted to be watching the WWE, I'd be watching the WWE. I'm watching basketball. I've never seen this, even in the men's game. When I was going to Boston Garden and watching the Celtics play, I don't know, the Detroit Pistons. When I was watching Bill Laimbeer out there, he's the biggest hack on the planet. He was an enforcer. But the freaking referees blew the whistle. I never saw anything like this. Never. It's outrageous and it's unacceptable. And I can tell you this, at the time I was watching the Celtics and we were buying obstructed view seats to get into the Garden to see the Celtics play all year long. We couldn't afford season tickets. We were young, okay? We would be paying for obstructed view seats and we would be there. And I can promise you, David Stern, who was the commissioner of the league at that time, would never have allowed this to get out of hand like this. Never. Never in a million years. Okay? I'm not saying there weren't some games where there were dirty hits and dirty plays. There were. But I've never seen the referees back down and just ignore everything going on. They were standing right there on almost every single one of these calls. And why they have to review what they're seeing with their own eyes is beyond me. This is just pure, unadulterated bullshit. And it's going to get somebody hurt someday. The other night in Boston, Caitlin Clark got hit by JC Shelton again. But Aaliyah Boston got pulled and slammed to the ground in one play. And then Sophie Cunningham got elbowed to the neck in another play. It seems to me that the Connecticut Sun are probably one of the dirtiest teams in the league. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. That's unsportsmanlike conduct, in my opinion. People are coming here like people went to the games when Jordan came into the league to see someone who has changed the game, someone who has revolutionized women's basketball in just a year and a half. And now it's, it's open court on Caitlin Clark. And it's totally disrespectful. We're paying money to see somebody play basketball who is an elite basketball player. And I see people out there and, on Angel Reese's feed making comments like Caitlin Clark is as dirty as the rest of them. She most certainly is not. I'm calling bullshit on that, okay? Does she sometimes go up and make hard fouls? Yeah, she does. She gets called for those fouls, and the offensive player goes to the line and shoots her foul throws. Okay? She does not slam anybody to the ground. She does not bash anybody off the head. She doesn't stick her knee in anybody's stomach, and she doesn't poke anybody in the eye. J.C. Sheldon's poke in the eye was a deliberate poke. You had to know that. The one scene I didn't show in here, and I will show it in a subsequent video, is Brittany Griner's elbow to Caitlin Clark's neck, where she claimed Caitlin Clark ran into her elbow. It really wasn't that way. And I also want to say that I have the video where she sits down on the bench and makes some unsavory comments about Caitlin Clark, and I don't need to pay a professional lip reader to know what Brittany Griner said. But as I said, this is just the first video I want to show. Okay, I'm going to make a subsequent video with other evidence of what's going on in this league. And yet we have a commissioner who walks around like this. Okay, like none of this is happening. It is happening, and it's unacceptable. We have a coach in Stephanie White who acknowledged publicly in a post-game presser that yes, she knows Caitlin Clark has fouled more than anybody else in the league. And then she chuckled and said something to the effect as, we're going to have to teach her how to deal with that. No, we don't have to teach her how to deal with that. What you have to do is stand up and defend your goddamn players. This is totally unacceptable. Okay, this is thug play. I'm not interested in paying money to see thug play. Okay, I want to see Caitlin Clark play ball. And if she tortures you, so be it. Now I will tell you. Michael Jordan had a first entry into the league that was difficult because people didn't know how to stop him, just the way they don't know how to stop Caitlin Clark. But the referees didn't allow that to go on for very long. And Michael Jordan was working his magic, and people were loving to watch him play. We need to let Caitlin Clark play ball. If she's better than the rest of you, well, that's just too bad. That's the sport. So I don't know how this gets resolved, honestly. I floated the idea in a comment on, somebody made a comment to me on one of my posts about, you know, how do we stop this? I don't know, other than a petition. Can we get millions of signatures? Can we get millions of Caitlin Clark supporters to sign this petition to send to the commissioner of the WNBA? Because this certainly does have to stop. This cannot continue for this girl's career. She's going to be in a prime for at least 10 years here. She won't make it that long if this is allowed to continue. So please leave in the comments any ideas you might have. Would you be willing to support a petition? Would you be willing to sign? Would you be willing to share it? Is there some way we can get millions of signatures so that these idiots, and they are idiots, the, you know, geniuses who are running the WNBA don't seem to get this. They are turning off millions of fans when they allow Caitlin Clark to be assaulted. Millions. They think they need rivalries to build their brand. Well, a rivalry is one thing, but pure thug basketball and targeting the best player in the league so that she can't even play her game without getting injured is unacceptable. And they're too stupid to understand. They are working against their own best interest, quite frankly, because at this point, the fans are disgusted with what they're looking at, and they should be. I will talk to you all later. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great night.